Ada for having my wedding on brother's divorce anniversary. I, a 28-year-old man, have been engaged to my long-term girlfriend for around a year, female 26. The reason for the delay was the illness of my mother-in-law. My fiancé and I have decided to be married on January 11, 2022, which will be our first anniversary. We've already rented a space, established guest lists, designed a menu, and so on. We're just getting started. My patents are located a long distance away, several hours away. The next day, they phoned me to confirm the date, and then requested that I drop everything and come alone to settle the scheduling conflict with them. I took time off work to pay them a visit, and they sat me down to remind me that on January 11th, 2 years ago, my brother Isaac, 30, officially divorced his ex-wife of 8 years, who had been married to him for 8 years. There was a lot of talk about how Isaac and his family are having a terrible day on that particular day, and how Isaac has informed them that he will not be attending my wedding because it is his divorce anniversary, unless I change the date because he plans on getting drunk and crying his eyes out for doing what he did and causing his ex-wife to leave him. The fact that they were serious caught me off guard, and after saying I'm sorry, but I'm not altering the date period, they left me speechless for the rest of the day. Dad yelled violently, "What's the big hurry? If you have a lifetime ahead of you, there is no harm in postponing your wedding date. Take it into consideration. Since my fiancé and I had already paid for the location and set up everything, we couldn't cancel the event at this time, so I explained why. My mother strongly recommended me to remove my fiancé from the conversation since she had nothing to do with what we were discussing. It was at this point that I began to become agitated and stated that I would not be changing my wedding date. Mom responded by stating that I was obviously prioritizing a day-long party over my brother, and that I would have to accept the fact that I had ruined my relationship with him as a result of this. As Dad continued, "Consider this. I'm getting married on the exact same day my brother's marriage ended, and I've been asked how I can possibly not feel terrible about my wedding anniversary being on the anniversary of my brother's divorce for years to come. I claimed that Isaac was solely at fault since he had slept with someone else while married, and my ex was justified in stating that she would not have it. My parents attempted to justify it by claiming that he was intoxicated, but the outcome was the same. The day before I left, they warned me that if Isaac didn't show up, they would neither, which devastated me since I wanted my family to share my delight with me. Because this is a big event in my life, and I'm not sure my parents have a valid argument, given that more and more family members are indicating that they will not attend my wedding if it is held on January 11th as scheduled. Ada, Story 2. Ada for telling my daughter the truth about why I wasn't in her life. To begin, my ex-girlfriend and I were both 19 years old at the time of her pregnancy. We had just recently ended our relationship when she realized she was pregnant a few weeks later. During the interview, she said that she planned to get an abortion but just wanted her sister with her. This caused me to always believe that she had an abortion, which I found quite distressing. She only spoke with me once to inform me that the project was complete, and we never talked again. Fast forward 19 years, and I just realized that it had all been a lie. Because of the death of my ex-husband 3 years ago, my daughter Cara has been living with her uncle since then. He was the one who contacted me to let me know that she was interested in connecting with me, and he was the one who introduced us. He and I spoke for a long time since I was feeling some significant emotions at the time, such as rage at not having been notified of her existence. Despite the fact that my ex had backed out of the abortion, he didn't want me to be involved since we were still separated, so he chose not to inform me. He told me, however, that Cara is completely ignorant of this. Because we were both young, I evidently wasn't prepared to be a father, so I ran away from home. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. In a phone call, Cara's uncle, Rob, told me that he believes his sister was wrong, but that Cara doesn't carry any grudges against me, and that my ex-husband never painted me as a monster, but rather as a young guy who realized he couldn't provide for her enough. He asked that I not inform Cara about this if she questions about it during our conversation, since it will alter her perspective of her mother. I never said specifically that I would do so. Cara sent me a message, and we've been communicating ever since. I've met her twice already, and both encounters have been quite emotional for me. Looking at this girl, who looks just like me and feeling unhappy, since we're only getting to know one another, is a common experience. So far, our conversations have centered on what her past was like, how my life is, what she wants/aspires to be in the future, and getting to know one another. The next day, we had another meeting, and she finally asked the obvious questions about why I wasn't taking part in the event. In addition, how did I feel, what was going through my mind, and whether or not I had any thoughts about her were all asked. I had been debating what to do, but I didn't have it in me to lie at the moment, so I spoke the truth instead of lying. Regardless of the fact that I was notified about the abortion and had no idea she existed until now, I still want to be a part of her life and have the option to be her father if she so wishes. Kara began to cry, and we continued our conversation, during which she expressed her desire for me to remain involved. My messages were going popular on the internet that night, not just from Rob, but also from her paternal and maternal grandparents. Everyone is unhappy with each other for notifying Kara about her mother, especially since she has yelled at them all and refused to take their phone calls. The fraud was awful, to be sure, but all I did was tarnish the memory of her late mother in order to benefit myself. Rob called me a self-centered jerk for not taking into consideration how Kara would react if she found out about what I was doing. Right now, I'm having a terrible time of it. Even while I realize that honesty is the best policy, in this particular scenario, I'm not sure whether or not I was being in a hole by being honest. I'm still figuring out what it means to be a parent, so I'm not sure whether I've dropped the ball on this one. Update: I wrote this piece a few months ago and wanted to explain what's been going on since then. This was a huge disaster, and I appreciate all of your comfort, because you told me Kara deserved to know the truth. I carried some guilt with me for days till she phoned me again now that she had had time to reflect. Kara thanked me for being open about what had occurred, and we had a lengthy discussion about what she was going through. She and her mother had always had a rocky relationship, even after she died, so there was a lot of hatred and resentment she never got to put to rest. Now that she's discovered the latest lie her mother told her about me, it's triggered a slew of other conflicting emotions. She had been in treatment even before her mother died to work through their difficulties, so Kara is working it out with someone, which I'm glad to hear. Many of you suggested counseling for her, so at least she was aware of it. My daughter is still upset with her family. She spoke to them a few times before cutting off connection. Kara is certain that she will forgive them in time, but for the time being, she claims she wants them to deal with the repercussions and hasn't made contact with them. I did convey my worry about her locking them out, but she assures me that it will not be permanent. She's still trying to come to terms with the betrayal and allow them back into her life. She is still living with her buddy and wants to do so for the time being. So far, he has denied whatever financial assistance I have offered. She simply wants to let her rage out and let them think about it for a bit. I still had to conduct some blocking for my own peace of mind. Things are still in the works, but I'm delighted to say that we're getting along just great. Kara has visited several times and has met my fiancé. We're learning so much about each other, even though it's difficult not to become upset when she speaks about childhood memories and knowing I couldn't be there for them. I'm still looking for a therapist since this has been weighing heavily on me as well, and I still have no clue what the heck I'm doing as a parent. Thank you for your words of encouragement and for all of the advice from other parents. I keep being asked for an update on this, so I apologize for taking so long to remember to publish anything.